Alright, welcome to the stream. Just getting into the thing that we were doing here. Yeah, so we're continuing on building the component stuff in the editor. And yeah, last time we had, well, up until now we've built a component editor, the starting of it at least. We have the documents of the component, what you could say like component types, or like, yeah. Right, and so yeah, I was messing around here a little bit. Yeah, we get this error message as well, but never mind that for now. So we have this component editor. Here we have a health component, and the idea is we create our components in the editor, and then we can sort of, well, actually what you could do in Zig is like you could generate code based on the components and then use that in the game. But yeah, we'll see how we'll do. I mean, this, I realized that we're kind of, it's kind of getting more what you say, more maybe slow moving when starting with things like this, because my initial thought was, okay, I'm gonna have to be productive. I want to be as productive as possible and not add like unnecessary features and stuff like that. But this feels sort of like a natural addition to the game, but to the editor, but it's not really that super necessary to do. It's just a really nice to have. I mean, an alternative. So if I show here why we're like adding like component types and stuff here, it's like here I added like a button and a door, and yeah, this is the first time I'm showing these ones. They kind of look a bit weird, but so this is kind of like a button, and then this is a door, and they are entities. And what we could do in the old system is like we could just have metadata, and we could say opens door or something like that, and then you would have like an ID here. So let's do take this door, and well, we don't really have the ID here, but we could technically bind this to an ID here. What you also could do is make like a special key here. So this is like a door, and it has a key, and the key will be like not like a key that you open the door, but a key that identifies the door. Maybe it's better to have like an ID instead. So ID will be, you know, the door, and then this would be the door. So that's how you would could connect them. But it's not really, it's a bit cumbersome to do this. It's prone to error. You don't really get a visual representation of what the door this is connected to. You just have to like, oh yeah, it's that button and it's connected to this one or something like that. And I imagine when maybe designing like a more intricate puzzle or something, and you just want to visually understand what you're doing, it's gonna be a real hassle building and designing stuff. So the idea was that, okay, let's build this component system so that instead of having these like metadata things, you would add a component that would have, well, basically the same thing, like opens door, and then it's gonna have a property that is like what door, and it's gonna be a reference to an entity. And then what you could do is you could like maybe have a button that says, okay, select entity, and then you click on the entity which is gonna connect to the thing, and then you're gonna be able to programmatically see, well, the editor could have knowledge about two entities being connected. So now these two are actually connected via a entity reference. And so you could, for example, while you're hovering or selected, where this is selected, you could draw a line towards the door that is connected to this entity. So now you could easily visually see the door that this is opening. And also, if it was like all the way over here, you could still do the same thing. You could have like a little hover window that shows like a snapshot. It shows like a view of this door over here, so you can see the door and where it is. And yeah, so the whole idea is to make the editor have more knowledge about what is going on, so that you can more easily implement these things in the editor and see what's going on. So that was kind of the idea here that kind of sparked this, why we're trying to do these components. But I do realize that it's a lot of work, and it kind of locks us into this style of developing the game, instead of as we had before, like you just create the entity and then the game code, the game engine will just take care of spawning the entity, creating the correct components and everything like that. But I just feel like, yeah, if we get, once we have this component, I'd like to like visualize or think ahead and think about, okay, let's say we do have this component system in place, will it be worth it? Like, will it, yeah. So well, it's really nice for these entities that kind of do this, but what about monsters and stuff like that? Well, for monsters, like let's say we go to this monster here. Now, instead of just having like an icon, then you would be able to add a bunch of components to it. That's gonna be sort of the default components. This is equivalent to sort of like a prefab almost in like Unity or whatever, but it's like one entity. So because we don't really have like, there's no like entity hierarchy or anything like that in the game right now. That might be something that's gonna be supported maybe in the future, but for now we just have one entity that's gonna have like components inside. And so then you would define the components that each entity type is gonna have here instead of in the game code directly, which I guess I mean that works as well. It's kind of like more editor based than code based. I mean, I like kind of like both. It's like I like code, like, because when you code you can sort of do whatever you want. You can like go into, yeah, that's what's nice about code. You can sort of iterate through a list easily. You can automatically do a whole bunch of stuff that you cannot do in an editor. In an editor, you're stuck with the sort of interface that you're dealing with, and that's what you can do. But in code, you can do a whole bunch more. You have the freedom to do basically whatever you want. That's what I like about it. So I'm kind of hesitant to go that route here. It's like maybe the alternative would be maybe to create well, one thing that I was thinking about is having maybe not components, but having properties. So on each entity you could add properties, because if you imagine that also does not lock us down into component. Maybe one person or some person does not need an entity component or not using entity component system. that's also an argument against actually implementing these components. I mean, you could have them also, I guess. You could, but I don't want to lock us down into that, I don't think. So an alternative for that is just to add a, well, let's open up our button entity and add a property here that is going to be like, yeah, which door does this open, or something like that. And or which entity, so it's going to be an entity reference, which entity is going to activate, like activates, and then an entity reference. And then in the scene we can have the same sort of visual representation, because now we know it has a property, it is connected to one and other entity, so we can still have the same like connection without having this elaborate like component system that you can add to different things. So I think we went a little bit too fast, maybe, or I mean I did went a little bit too fast on actually implementing these components. So I've just talked myself and thought myself out of actually implementing this. It's a nice fit to my current architecture, but what if in the future it does you don't want to use ECS, you want to use like just a game object or something else like that, then this kind of just locks down you into that kind of architecture. Well, so I think I would rather to have the same, I would rather like to have the same sort of functionality that I was looking for, just add a property instead, like, because yeah. So but the good news is that we could actually reuse a lot of stuff that we already implemented, because most of these components are basically the properties. That's what we're trying to implement right here. So we're actually what I'm thinking is that the entity types are gonna be, they are actually gonna have properties here. Instead of having components with properties, I'm just gonna add properties to entity types directly. Yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do. So they will have property types, and then the instances here will, the properties will pop up here, and you can choose what the properties will be. Yeah, I think that should make a lot of sense. And then you can also do, I mean, you can do basically anything that you could with components. Basically, I mean, you can have like a spawner that you also like, okay, have a property like, okay, what type of thing you want to spawn, and put that in there. I mean, you can do whatever you want here, really. So the nice thing about components is like you get composable sort of groups of properties. Like if you have things that are very common, you can just pull in this standard component like health or whatever. Now I'm not gonna define that here, because I'm defining the health components, everything that is like the like that, I'm gonna define, of course, in the game engine. But for buttons, it's really nice to have this visual representation. But that is, yeah, that's gonna be for properties, and then the game will have to assume that the button entity has specific properties, just like it assumes now about the metadata. So it's not really a big difference. I mean, it's gonna be just the editor knowing more about what type, how your metadata. It's basically the same as metadata, except that the editor kind of knows what schema the metadata is, like what type is it. So, and then it can make assumptions based on that. So yeah, I think that's a better approach than to make this whole component system, which again would be kind of nice in the way I'm designing my game, but it also locks us down. So yeah, I think I'm gonna actually not do that. So what we'll do is we'll go here and we'll delete this. Yeah, delete that components. Yes. Okay, so now this is gone. And yeah, what I want to do is I want to add the properties here instead. So let's do that. So we began this session by, okay, we're just going to continue on the components, and now I've basically talked my way out of it. But it's good. It's good to sort of reflect on what you're doing. And I had a little bit of a bad feeling about it after sleeping on it a little bit. It felt good to do something like that first, but now it's kind of like, it feels a little bit sluggish, and it feels like we're locking us down a little bit. It feels like we're going in a different direction that I didn't really like it. So I think we're gonna do it like this instead. So with that said, let's move some stuff. So we have the property editor and things. Let's move these to let's go to layout, entity type. Actually, maybe I'll put this in its own file actually. So let's do properties, property, yeah, just property, I guess. And we will make this public. Okay. And we need some imports. And the property here, so this is going to be just like a property object, I think. Property object or properties, maybe. Yeah, because it's yeah. All right, and then we also need these other types. Property float. Okay. And then we basically just remove. We just remove. I mean, it wasn't that much code anyway. So sometimes you have to. I mean, this is not really that much code anyway. So. And then we also have component document. Now, this we do. Yeah, I want to have this one. Let's go to entity type document. I do want a new property. This function. I do want to copy that. And then the persistent data needs properties as well. So let's go here. I will add. Also go and add those. So we need property object. Now, yeah, this is gonna be. Also, we need to copy that. So let's go over here. Properties. So let's move. No. Source. Documents. Oops. Okay. Move source document component property to source documents components. No, not component. Entity type. Yeah. So let's move it in there. And yeah, so here's the persistent data. Now I do want to copy some other stuff as well. Let's go entity persistent data. Alright, now that exists there. Yeah, here's the persistent data. So the init function, we just say empty. initialize. We just initialize. Anything else? Clone. We do this. And that's it. Okay. Anything else we need to do? That this is empty basically. This one. Yeah, it's very little stuff in here. So now we can basically just delete this whole component folder. And we also need to go and no, where is document? Down here. So we need to go and remove these. There we go. And this is going to be entity type. Oh no. This one is removed. Here's going to be entity type. I guess we could technically move it outside of the document as well. But layout component, no. Yeah, that one. Component document doesn't exist. Yeah, so we already deleted those. And we don't need you. And we don't need you. And you don't exist. Right. This is the property editor. And then layouts. Assets manager. Okay, but we did do like get some things out of it. So it's not just, you know, deleting, but I think it's a good thing. I think we went a good fork in. We came into a fork in the road here, and we sort of backtracked a little bit, but also took a couple of steps forward in other places. But anyway, here's the menu. Draw icon menu. Right. So we're gonna import property editor. And we just call this here. And the properties are gonna be entity type get properties, I guess. Right. And then we go to oops. Entity type document, and we add get properties here. Well, I guess actually we needed document instead. Let's do that instead. Let's just get the document here. So we'll update the property editor to take the entity type document here. There. Okay. All right, let's see if we can get this running. Property. Well. Okay, 1 second. Use of undeclared component. Ah, yeah. There. Okay. Let's see now. Use of undeclared identifier. Standard. Okay. Now it seems to work. Well, or not. Error parsing JSON missing field. Alright, so properties does not exist. So we will have to basically go through each entity and add that. So yeah, let's do this. All right, and right, so we will do this, and I think, yeah, we'll just add, you know, properties like that. That should be enough. Let's make a macro here. Go to the end, insert, oops, properties, done. Okay. Let's see now if we can load it. There we go. Now we loaded it. Now we have a property. Let's add a property. Save. Exit. Reload. Exit. Okay. No of these issues here. Let's open up entities button. And we should have a property there, new property, yeah. There we go. Okay. So, great. So now we have basically removed all the component stuff. I'm not gonna go that route, at least not maybe right now. Maybe that's gonna be like an add-on module, maybe, that you can get in the future. We'll see. But now we have properties on our entity types instead, which makes a lot of sense right now. So and I mean, it still opens up for other possibilities in the future, you know. Like, I guess you could still have a system where you define sort of like property templates, and you can use those instead, like groups of properties that are like common, and you can edit those and whatever. So you could sort of extend this, but I mean, components are basically, it's just packets of different types of data and basically tags that you put onto an entity. But really, my game engine is sort of like it's like not really pure ECS, I guess. It's kind of like a hybrid. Well, I mean, it's using ECS as like a backend for storing the components, and but the physics system is an entirely different system, so it's not even using ECS for the physics system, for like keeping like the positions and stuff. That's stored in another way to make it more efficient. But for other stuff like the logic and other data that's not part of like the physics system is stored as components. And I mean, it's basically, I forgot what I was gonna say. Never mind. Hold on 1 second here. All right. Sorry about that. Let's see. All right. Yeah. So we have our little property editor here. We are now. This is in like the tree. That's what we ended on last stream. We started making this tree, which is the first time I'm doing it here. And then, so this is kind of the root of the tree. We also have this button here, where you can add new properties. But we have the root of the tree here, and then you can add all the nodes. So I'm thinking the first nodes are gonna be the nodes of the object, but it is gonna be basically this code is probably gonna be like in here, because we need the properties. So we can probably implement the property iterator here instead. So we create an iterator. Now let's create this. So this iterator is going to go through each property. It's going to give you a key and a value so that you can use those. Yeah. So Let's go to our property library here. There. And let's go to objects. And let's go to yeah, let's just make a function here, iterator. And we will return a property iterator. And this is gonna be okay, I'm just gonna see if I can get some information here. Fields. I wanna see we have map. So this one should have an iterator already. And this iterator is here. So yeah, we should probably just use this. And this iterator is the public, so we can do fields, so it's gonna be this. I mean, maybe the issue here is getting this type out, like what type it is. You know. And this is the type that I want to get. And I guess we could do something like this. We could do type of property object. Self.fields.map and then iterator. Right? Yeah. All right. Now let's get back. Here. No? Come on, where are we? Here. Yeah, so we get this iterator and we call next, we get an entry. Entry has a key pointer to why isn't it not working? A slice. Okay, I don't know why it's not working there. So yeah, that's the label of the tree node. We probably want that to be sort of editable as well, like having like an input in there to change the name. But let's have it that for now, and then we have dynamic property editor. Yeah, so that will sort of, based on the editor that you see, you're gonna Probably always gonna have like name here, key. And it's gonna be mute. These are gonna be mutables. There we go. All right. One second here. All right. Let's see. All right. So, and then here we do objects editor with entity type document, get properties. Okay, so let's go over here and we'll add this get properties. And we'll get property objects. So we'll just return this self. Actually, this. Yeah, document, persistent data, properties. I'm pretty sure that's an object, yeah. Okay. So now the top node is a object, and then the object will like iterate through all the fields. It will make a node for each field with the key, and it also has an input for that you can change the key. And then you also have a property editor. We also need to add type, like property type input here, so that we can change the property type as well. What's this document? Oh. Seven. Oh, return. Okay. Man, sometimes you get blind to some of this stuff. Okay, there we go. Here you can see our new property here. So now we can add a bunch of properties. We get them here. We can change the key. Whoops. Oh, when we change the key, it does that. So that, okay. I wonder if yeah, okay. So I think what we need to do, well, okay, I'm not sure actually. Let's go to the editor here. So, well, like, I know what the issue is. The issue is that, well, for one, this input, I think it needs like an ID, a unique ID, perhaps. So should each property have an ID generated? Then we could do that, like in the property object, or actually in the property itself. We could have like ID, and then, because that will help a lot when editing it. Yeah. Yeah, I'll just go that route. I will fix issues that else comes up. Property, and then the, what would we call the underlying thing? Property, maybe? I don't know. Property type, maybe. Alright, that's the property type. Here, so empty is actually creating a new ID, and then the property is gonna be this. Corp property. There we go. Clone. Well, that's just gonna be ID. All right, so now we have added ID to this. What else do we need to do? Okay. Yeah, I mean, okay. So now let's go here, and now we can say push ID value.id.serialize pop ID. We can also push an ID here as well. I wonder if it has to be different. I don't know. Actually, let's not do it for the input. Let's only do it for the tree node. What is this? Oh, random. Can I not call it like that? Comp time. Yeah. Okay. So you can't have this. So we just do init then. Oh, you can switch on a struct to get the fields? Or what? Okay. Property, yeah, we're switching on property. Okay, I'm not sure if that's an actual error here. So this one we should be able to have empty because we don't have any properties yet. But this one we can't just put an empty. Like when we're making a new property here, we have to do .init now instead. Oh, I see. Oh, because that's not a struct. Or yeah. Okay, that was the issue. .36. What is this error? No thing object in. Oh, I see. This needs to be property type. Alright. Now let's go back here. 37. Right. Oh, but then do we need to allocate it? I'm not sure. I don't think so. Let's try it without. It's gonna live through this scope anyway, so. Switch on, yeah. This is gonna be property.property. Alright, we're crashing. Right, so when we save this as, okay, so yeah, when we serialize now, do we want to have a custom, I think we want to have like a custom serializer for property now. So let's copy some of this here. Because now it's gonna, you know, create an ID, we're gonna have property. I guess an ID is fine. Maybe we don't want a custom for this. Because where would the ID be? I mean, the ID could just be right in the... Because my idea was, well, maybe we could do it like this, like you have property JSON type. And you would basically have, well, this would be like a union P9. And never mind. This is gonna be very complicated. I was trying to do this, like wrapping all, like having this type, except you wrap all the types with a thing that you add ID, but it's just gonna be super convoluted. What I'm just gonna do is I'm gonna go to this, and I'm just gonna delete this. All right, let's add a property. There we have our property, and this still doesn't work because we haven't fixed it, but let's save and just reload, see if it still works. Yeah. And now let's look at the data. So now this property has an ID, which is stored here. Okay. And yeah, now we go to layout property. Okay. So this apparently didn't work. Why is the LSP so uncooperative right now? Okay, I'll just quit out. Open this again. Okay, there we go. So let's check this out. We have flags. So what I'm looking for is like when the key changes. What if we don't put anything in here? Like we just put an empty. Oh, that is just empty, okay. Like I wish there was a way to have this input over here. Let's check out the manual a little bit more, I guess. Advanced with selectable nodes. So here you can select. Span. Allow overlap. Framed. Okay. Oops. Okay, maybe the tree is actually not what we want. Or we structure it in like a different way. Or we could have it like this, you know, property 0, property 1, property 2, you know, you could do that as well. Or just, you could also display the ID, I guess. Yeah, at least now it doesn't, you know, redo the whole thing. And it doesn't really need to have anything in here. It just looks weird, you know. I wish this could be up here. What if we don't do this? Will it complain? Yeah. So it does take the ID in here. Oh man. I need to lie down or something. Okay. Yeah, I didn't save the other property. Okay. But also, what's this? Oh, that's the label. Right. We probably want to extend this a little bit. Where's that? Layout, entity type, menu. 200. Let's do 300. Okay. Yeah, okay, so yeah, I think I'm gonna have to go here soon. I need to sleep or something. I don't know. But yeah, this didn't really turn out as well as I was thinking. But I guess we could live with that. I guess we could put the ID in here for now, and maybe we'll find out a better solution later. It does make sense to have a tree node because you could have possibly other objects. We could also, you know, roll our own thing that you could have as well. Let's put it like that, although it's not zero terminated. So yeah, this is gonna just crash. Yeah. I mean, couldn't we just make it like make a Z version of that? I guess we'll return to. No space left. Okay, do I have to increase it? Wait, was it 36 or was it? Yeah, it's 36. Okay. Yeah, so it's not nice. And it's like if you put a string in here, then that's the ID. So I don't think this push ID is doing anything if you actually have a label in there. Well, if the label changes, then the whole node is like rebuilt. It looked like. So I don't think we need to push this ID here. That should be good enough. Yeah, I guess this is how we have to have it for now. So, okay, let's just continue. So next is adding, well, it is a float. I guess we could display the type just to make it visible there. So this would be yeah, just tag name. So at least we see that it's a float here. Okay. And then the float will, where is the, so the float editor would just have this input, but it's not text, it's a float. Yeah. F32, and the v value is this. Do we have anything else? Okay. So now we should be able to modify it. Or not. Conflicting ID. Oh, it says key. This is value. Yeah. Now I wonder if they can live in each tree node, or if, like, if I add another one, will this become an issue? No. So let's say this is like F1, F2. This is 3. This is 5. And then we save it. We reload. And we still have our F1 with 3, F2 with 5. Yeah, so that all works. Now we just need to implement it for everything else, like for strings and integers, objects, and it will like recursively sort of work there. I'm also thinking of, like, if we're gonna have a huge list of like properties here, we probably also want to have a scroll bar, like section this off into like a child window that is scrollable, or layout that is scrollable here as well. But yeah, we will continue working on that later. So yeah, that's gonna be it for us today. Thank you very much